In today's video, we are going to analyze the game played between Ian Nepomniachtchi and Magnus Carlsen in the World Championship match, which was played a day before yesterday. And the game began with e4. The first move was made by Arkady Dvorkovich. I think it is Russian, and I am sure that I'm not pronouncing it right, as it is an old tradition that FIDE president opens the match with making the first move. So e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, and the Ruy Lopez territory starts. a6, the above so variation of Ruy Lopez. So um, I would say that thank God there is no Berlin. Once again, we are going to see in the World Championship match. So Carlsen plays bishop a4. Nepomniachtchi played bishop a4, and now Carlsen plays knight f6, castle, bishop e7, rook e1, b5, bishop b3, castle. Both players have followed the rules and have played the main moves, and here Nepo played the move h3. And there was another challenger from Russia who is now in the team of Nepo, which played this move twice in the match against Carlsen 5 years ago. The main reason white opts it over c3 is to avoid the martial attack. The Carlsen has played like this in past, and he would then enter into martial attack like this. After d5, now martial into d5, knight into d5, knight into e5, knight into e5, now rook into e5 and c6, followed by bishop d6 by black. But the second is knight a5, immediately played by Nepo. Sorry, Carlsen. I'm sorry, I'm just mixing the name of these both players. Carlsen is determined on giving away the central e pawn. It's a novelty in the GM level, I would say, because I haven't seen any GM level game who has sacrificed the pawn on just eighth move, the central pawn on eighth move. Here, the main combination which was played by Magnus Carlsen himself was bishop b7, which was played in versus Kroyakin in 2016, and both of his games, and it continued like d3, d6, a3, queen d7, knight bd2, rook fe8, c3, bishop f8, knight f1, h6, and the continuation was like this over there in both of their games where Carlsen played. And here, after knight a5, uh, there is who will refuse the sacrifice, actually sacrifice pawn. So Nepomniachtchi went on to grab the pawn on e5. So after knight into b3, as a compensation for pawn, Magnus gets rid of the dangerous light square bishop of white, actually over here. After a into b3, now capturing towards the center, and bishop b7, developing the bishop and attacking the e4 pawn. d3 was played in the game. The second move, knight c3, on what game would most likely continue like b4, knight d5, knight into d5, e into d5, bishop into d5, d4, rook e8, and this is actually an equal play for both sides. Game is equal. So after d3, now d5 surely. Black tries to open up the position because black has the bishop pair. So into d5, queen into d5, and threatening mate in one. Here, queen f3, Nepo sports and masterfully plays this move. It's well-known fact that the side with material advantage to try to always simplify the position with exchanging major pieces like queens and rooks. Knight f3 was the alternative, but after rook e8 and knight c3 and queen f5 followed by bishop d7, black has too much activity over here. So the move which Nepo played in the game, queen f3, is more solid one. After bishop d6, now king f1. It is another totally completely weird move. because rather instantly and rather it was instantly played by Nepo. As one of the best theoreticians, Giri Anish commented in his live broadcast, that's what you expect in the World Championship match. Two players play something that nobody ever seen before. This was the comments of Anish Giri. But they both have that's the World Championship level preparation, concluding that it is just normal. So Rook FD8. Carlsen accepts this challenge and comes with an other strange looking move. Instead of fighting for the open E file over here, uh, he played the move Rook B8, and I would say that world champion brings the F8 rook to the other rook. Looks weird, doesn't it? But there is a simple idea behind the move to defend the B7 bishop. That when this queen will take the knight, now this knight is threatened, and Ian Nepomniachtchi is pushed to exchange the queens over here in this position. So queen into d5, knight c3 loses to queen into e5. That is the problem. So that's why queen into d5, knight into d5, and this was the first moment where Nepo started to think seriously. Bishop d2 was played after a long thought, and c5, a key strategic idea in such type of position to activate the lacking side, the side which is lacking material, to activate his pieces immediately. So knight f3 and rook d8. Knight b4 could have been also been played, but after rook d8, now knight c3 and knight b4 now seem like the first move Carlsen made on his own. Until now, he had blitzed out the moves that clearly indicates that he was actually in his complete preparation. Huh. One of the eternal questions in chess is that which rook shall we take? Shall we go with to take the open file? Now, sorry, really sorry. I have some problem with my voice. Now Nepo is front of. Sorry, he's in such type of position that what to do now. So he made the move rook e c1. After some thinking, he decided he doesn't need the e file so much as the a file. Rook ac1 was the choice of the Indians actually here. After rook ec1, now rook ac8. I this is a type of really a super GM level move. Here, I was thinking about that he might go for f6, taking under control the g5 square and leaving f7 square for the king to move on to. This was my analysis when I was watching the game. To be honest, I could not get the grasp of this move which was played in the game, and that was rook ac8. I am really very sorry for this type of disturbance. I actually not feeling good actually at present also. So knight e2 was played, and after that knight c6 and bishop e3 was played. Bishop f4 was another idea to trade off the dark square bishops, which were which move, the position would go like that because it is not imminent for black to take the bishop over here. He may go back to bishop f8 and then rook t1, knight b4, and knight e1. It is a passive move, but it might work. So this was another idea to that instead of bishop e3. After that, knight e7 was played and bishop f4. Uh, Nepo played this move, but he played it at the wrong moment, at the wrong time. Because now, after knight bishop into f3, g into f3, bishop into f4, knight into f4, and rook e6. And after some exchanges, black has no longer the bishop pair, but white's king side is completely torn down. His structure is completely damaged. And after that, rook e1, knight f5, c3, knight h4. The knight that had been on b4 some moves before has now reached the h4 all the way through c6, e7, f4, f5, h4, and starts tickling kingside weaknesses of white. Actually, rook e3, the direct way of defending. The second rook a d1, actually, it is a dubious move because of knight into f3, rook e3 now, and knight h4 and d4. But here, um, black has this back rank issue, and so that's why he had to capture over here. It was another continuation. So rook e3 was played by Nepo, and after that, king f8 was too slow. Instead of it, immediately g6 was better. Because now knight g2, then knight f5, rook e5, where knight on f5 is defended by a pawn, and black can simply grab the d3 pawn. Simply, there is no issue with grabbing it. And after rook into d3, simply, and here black is better. So after king f8, now knight g2. Now white starts to regroup his pieces actually, and knight f5, rook e5, g6 now, knight e1, and knight g7. Knight is heading to e6 from where it is going to protect uh, his c5 pawn, and it would relieve black's c6 rook job from protecting the pawn on c5, and his rook will become more activated, black's rook. After that, rook e4, f5, rook e3, knight e6, knight g2, b4, and this was a very very tricky move by black, by Magnus Carlsen. When I saw this move in the game, I thought for a very long time that how white is going to have any advantage in this position. And the move was king e2. White has to give away the pawn, one of the pawns, back to the black. And rook b8, king b2, b into c3 check, b into c3, rook into b3, king c2, rook b7, h4, knight f7. Uh, Magnus here did another slow move. Instead of it, it was better to go for a5 immediately. It was looking more interesting than the move king f7. So rook e1. It leaves the e3 square for the knight, from where it may come over to c4 and to a very beautiful post over here. Now king f6, bishop knight e3, rook d7, knight c4. Now see that this knight, which was two moves before on g2, now it is very active on c4. Rook e7, knight e5, rook d6, knight c4, rook c6, and there is the game is completely equal, dead equal actually, and there is was nothing else to repeat the moves over here, and the both of the players did the same thing, and the game went into a draw. The so what could I say about the outcome of this game? Actually, the both players seem to be very well prepared in their openings, even in the sidelines of the openings. So I have sensed that what we would see in the upcoming games would be a very great fight. So this was the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Kindly hit the subscribe and bell icon button. Thank you very much.